"Leave the child. Take me instead," he offered, stepping forward with his wrists already turned for the shackles. Everyone went silent. The crowd that had been baying for blood, the marshal with his hand on his pistol, even the wind seemed to hold its breath in the dusty street of Cedar Ridge. The child in question, a Comanche boy no more than 8, stood between two deputies, his thin shoulders squared despite the rope already looped around his neck. He'd been caught stealing bread from Murdoch's general store, his third offense in as many weeks. Under the town's new zero-tolerance law, even a child could hang. Jack Thornton had no stake in this. He was just passing through Cedar Ridge, planning to water his horse and move on toward California. But something in the boy's eyes, that mixture of defiance and terror, stopped him cold. Maybe it reminded him of another child, 20 years ago. Maybe it reminded him of himself. "You can't be serious," Marshal Briggs said, studying Jack with suspicious eyes. The lawman was new to town, brought in from Kansas to clean up Cedar Ridge. He'd hung 3 men in his first month, and the town council loved him for it. "You want to hang for some Indian brat's crime?" "I'm saying the boy's too young for the rope," Jack replied, his voice carrying across the silent crowd. "But if blood's what you need, take mine. I've got sins enough to warrant hanging." The boy looked up at him, confused. They'd never met, had no connection except this moment. Jack saw the question in those dark eyes. Why? Mayor Hutchinson pushed through the crowd, his face red with indignation. "This is absurd. The law is clear. Theft is punishable by hanging, regardless of age. Then change the law. Who are you to tell us how to run our town?" Jack pulled back his coat, revealing the worn Texas Ranger star still pinned inside. He'd quit the Rangers 5 years ago, but the badge still carried weight. Someone who's seen what happens when towns forget the difference between justice and vengeance. Whispers rippled through the crowd. A ranger, or former ranger, that changed things. Marshal Briggs's hand moved away from his gun, but his jaw remained set. "The boy's a thief," Briggs stated. "Been caught 3 times. "He's hungry," Jack countered. "When's the last time any of you saw a Comanche child in town who wasn't starving? You pushed his people off their land, killed the buffalo, then act surprised when their children steal bread?" The crowd shifted uncomfortably. In the silence, the sound of the boy's stomach growling was audible. Jack stepped closer to the makeshift gallows, close enough to see tears the child refused to let fall. "You're Jack Thornton," an old woman called from the crowd. "The ranger who brought in the Colson gang single-handed." Jack didn't acknowledge it, keeping his eyes on Marshal Briggs. "What's it going to be, Marshal? You going to hang a hungry child, or are you going to let me take his place? Your town gets its example either way." The marshal's jaw worked. "You're not from here, you've got no authority, but I've got something else." Jack reached into his saddlebag, pulling out a leather pouch. $500 in gold, California money. He tossed it at the mayor's feet. "That cover the stolen bread?" Mayor Hutchinson's eyes widened at the small fortune. It was more than the general store made in 6 months. But accepting it would mean acknowledging the injustice of the situation. "It's not about the money," Murdoch, the store owner, protested. "It's about law and order. If we let one thief go—" "One child," Jack corrected. "Let one child go." Father Miguel, the Catholic priest, stepped forward. "Perhaps we should consider mercy. The book of Matthew tells us—" "Don't quote Scrar." "Ipture at me, Padre," the mayor snapped. "This is about the law." The Comanche boy finally spoke, his English broken but clear. I take punishment. Not want anyone die for me." Jack knelt before the boy, speaking loud enough for all to hear. "What's your name, son?" "Joseph. Joseph Two Crows." "Well, Joseph Two Crows, stealing is wrong. You know that?" The boy nodded, then added quietly, "Starving is worse." A murmur ran through the crowd. Some faces showed sympathy now, others remained hard. Jack stood, addressing them all. "I'll make you another offer. Release the boy to me. I'll take responsibility for him. Teach him a trade. He works off his debt through honest labor." Jack looked at Murdoch. "Your store needs a stock boy, doesn't it? Boy could work mornings, learn his letters in the afternoon." "Absolutely not," Murdoch spat. "I won't have a thief in my store. You'd rather have a child's blood on your conscience?" The crowd was dividing now, some nodding agreement with Jack, others standing firm with the law. Marshal Briggs sensed the shift and made a decision. "The law is the law," he declared. "The boy hangs or someone takes his place. Those are the only options that satisfy justice." Jack studied the marshal's face, reading the politics there. Briggs couldn't back down without losing face, but he also didn't want to hang a child with the crowd now divided. He was offering Jack a way out, refuse, and the blood was on Jack's hands, not his. "Then I stand by my offer," Jack said. "Take me instead." The crowd erupted, half shouted in protest. The other half demanded the law be upheld. In the chaos, nobody noticed the dust cloud approaching from the east, until the thunder of hooves was upon them. 12 riders burst into the town square, Comanche warriors painted for war. The crowd scattered, women screaming, men reaching for guns they didn't carry to a public hanging. Marshal Briggs drew his pistol, but held fire, recognizing the futility. They were outnumbered and surrounded. The lead warrior, a man with silver streaking his black hair, dismounted lowly. His eyes found Joseph immediately. "My grandson," he said in perfect English. "Release him." "Chief Two Crows," Mayor Hutchinson stammered. "This boy was caught stealing. The law, your law." Two Crows' voice was winter ice. "Not ours. The treaty says nothing about hanging children for bread." "The treaty doesn't protect thieves," Marshal Briggs countered, though his gun hand trembled slightly. Two Crows looked at Jack, still standing by the gallows. "You offered to die for him. Why? He is not your blood." "Doesn't need to be," Jack replied simply. The chief studied him for a long moment. "You are the ranger, Thornton. You saved White Dove's daughter from the slavers 3 winters ago." Jack nodded slowly. He remembered the girl, barely 14, sold to Mexican traders by outlaws. He'd tracked them for 2 weeks, brought her home to her people. "Then you are known to us." Two Crows turned to the marshal. "Here is what will happen. You will release my grandson. In return, we will honor the treaty. Break this word, harm the boy, and Cedar Ridge burns tonight." "You're threatening us?" Mayor Hutchinson blustered. "I'm stating facts." Two Crows gestured to the hills around town. "Look." Everyone turned. Along the ridgelines, more riders appeared. 20, 40, 60 warriors, waiting. "One child's life," Two Crows said quietly, "or your whole town. Choose." Marshal Briggs looked at the hills, at the warriors in the square, at the terrified townspeople. "This is extortion." "This is what you taught us," Two Crows replied. "Strength is the only law you respect." Jack stepped between them. "There's another way. Chief Two Crows, what if the boy stays with me? I teach him white man's ways, but he visits your people regularly. He learns both worlds." "Why would you do this?" Jack met the chief's eyes. "Because someone needs to build bridges instead of burning them." Joseph spoke up suddenly in Comanche, rapid words that made his grandfather's eyebrows rise. Two Crows responded, and they had a brief exchange before the chief nodded. "The boy says you stood for him when no one else would, says you offered your life for his." Two Crows considered. "He wishes to learn from you." The standoff stretched taut as a bowstring. Then Two Crows did something unexpected. He laughed, not mockingly, but with genuine mirth that seemed decades younger than his weathered face. "You whites," he said, shaking his head. "You make everything so complicated. The boy took bread. Give us bread to replace it, and the debt is paid." "It's not that simple," Mayor Hutchinson protested. "Laws were broken. Your laws. Made without consulting us, enforced without mercy." Two Crows walked to his grandson, removing the rope from his neck with gentle hands. "But this man, this former ranger, he understands something you don't." "What's that?" Marshal Briggs demanded. "That laws without compassion become tyranny." Jack watched the chief embrace his grandson, saw the boy finally let those tears fall. Around them, the townspeople were slowly emerging from cover, fear giving way to curiosity. "I'll honor my offer," Jack said. "The boy can stay with me, learn a trade, but he goes to his people when they camp nearby. Best of both worlds." Young Joseph looked up at him. "Why you do this? Really why?" Jack was quiet for a moment, then pulled something from his pocket. A small carved wooden horse, worn smooth from handling. "I had a son once, about your age when the fever took him. He was always hungry too, growing so fast we couldn't keep him fed." His voice roughened. "If he'd lived, if he'd been desperate enough to steal, I'd have wanted someone to show mercy." Two Crows placed a hand on Jack's shoulder. "Loss makes some men cruel. Others, it makes kind. You chose well." Father Miguel stepped forward. "If I may, my church has a school. Joseph could attend, learn to read and write alongside the other children." "Indian children aren't allowed," Murdoch protested. Then that changes today, the priest said firmly, unless you'd prefer to explain to God why you turned away a child seeking knowledge. The tension was breaking now, fear replaced by something else. Possibility, maybe even hope. Some townspeople still looked angry, but others seemed thoughtful, seeing the Comanche not as threats but as parents trying to protect their child. Marshal Briggs holstered his weapon. "If the boy causes any trouble, he won't," Jack assured him. "I'll see to it. And if he does," Two Crows added, "you deal with me. But know this, we will be watching. Your treatment of him is your treaty with us." Mayor Hutchinson, ever the politician, sensed the shifting mood. Perhaps we've been hasty. A trial. The boy should have had a proper trial." "Bit late for that," Jack observed dryly. Two Crows knelt before his grandson, speaking in Comanche. Joseph nodded solemnly, then turned to Jack. "I work hard," the boy promised. "Learn good. Make proud." Jack extended his hand, and the boy shook it with surprising firmness. "We'll start tomorrow. First lesson, a man pays his debts." The Comanche warriors departed at sunset, but not before Two Crows and Jack shared a private conversation. The chief gave Jack an eagle feather, a sign of respect and protection among his people. "For what you did today," he said simply, Joseph Two Crows moved into the small room behind Jack's rented workshop. Jack had decided to stay in Cedar Ridge, opening a leather goods store. The boy proved a quick learner, with nimble fingers perfect for detailed work. Within a month, he was crafting belts and bridles that sold faster than Jack could make them. Father Miguel kept his word. Joseph attended the church school, where his quick mind absorbed lessons like desert sand absorbs rain. There were fights at first, children echoing, their parents' prejudices, but Joseph handled them with dignity, never throwing the first punch, but never backing down either. Marshal Briggs watched it all with suspicious eyes for weeks, waiting for Jack or the boy to slip. But as months passed without incident, even he had to admit the arrangement worked. The Comanche raids that had plagued nearby towns mysteriously bypassed Cedar Ridge. Trade opened up, with Two Crows people bringing buffalo hides and beadwork to town, trading peacefully for goods they needed. The transformation wasn't immediate or complete. Murdoch never fully accepted Joseph, but his wife began leaving fresh bread on Jack's doorstep, always denying it was her. Other townspeople slowly warmed to the boy, especially when he helped during the fire that threatened the church, forming a bucket brigade when grown men stood frozen. 3 years passed. Joseph grew tall and strong, fluent in both worlds. He could track like a Comanche and cipher like a bank clerk. Jack taught him leather work, but also taught him justice, mercy, and the courage to stand for what's right. The day Joseph turned 13, both his worlds gathered for celebration. Two Crows brought warriors who performed traditional dances. Father Miguel offered prayers. Even Marshal Briggs attended, bringing a deputy's badge. "For when you're old enough," he said gruffly, "town could use a lawman who understands both sides." Jack watched it all from his porch, pride swelling in his chest. The boy who'd almost hung for stealing bread now had the respect of both communities. But more than that, he'd become the son Jack thought he'd never have again. Years later, when Jack's hair had gone white and his hands too arthritic for leather work, Joseph took over the shop. He married a Mexican girl from Father Miguel's congregation, and their children grew up truly free, belonging to all worlds and rejected by none. Marshal Briggs retired, replaced by Joseph Two Crows Thornton. He'd taken Jack's name officially on his 18th birthday. As sheriff, he never once hung a man, finding other W.A.'s to serve justice. The gallows in the town square were torn down, replaced with a school that welcomed all children. Jack lived to see Joseph's own son born, a boy they named Jack Two Crows Thornton. The night before Jack died, peaceful in his sleep at 73, he told Joseph, "That day you stole bread was the luckiest day of my life." Joseph held his adoptive father's weathered hand. "You saved me." "No, son. We saved each other." The funeral drew hundreds. Comanche, Mexican, white settlers, all united in mourning a man who'd chosen compassion over law, mercy over justice, love over fear. Chief Two Crows, ancient now but still proud, placed an eagle feather on Jack's coffin. "He was not born to us, the chief said, "but he died as one of us. a bridge between worlds. Cedar Ridge prospered, becoming known throughout the territory as the town where differences were settled with words, not weapons. The story of the ranger who offered his life for a Comanche boy became legend, told around campfires and in churches, a reminder that sometimes the greatest courage is simply saying, "Take me instead." Stories like this aren't just told, they're felt. If you felt it too, subscribe and stay with us.